So for me on March 10th, there was basically a podcast on Twitter by Senju In Japan and like various other content creators talking about the Bleach Rebirth of Souls game. And I wanted to kind of go over some small little tad bits about like what was being said and also talk about Bleach Rebirth of Souls because this is my first video ever talk about it because I'm very new to the Bleach series. So my knowledge of Bleach is very limited up to like Soul Society is where I'm currently at. And I continue to read more at some point, maybe in a couple days. I want to really talk about a couple of things that really makes Bleach, and I feel like the way I should start is knowing the definition of a 3D fighting game and a 3D arena fighter game, because that was like the one of the big things that Senju in Japan was really emphasizing, and other people, and I also agree with that. Bleach Rebirth of Soul is not a 3D arena fighter. It's not. It's not. People will say it by default because it's like, oh, you can move around in various different directions, but there is a difference. And so I decided to pull up the definition of both of these. So we're gonna go to the 3D arena fire. So 3D arena fires are the typical games like Storm, Sparking Zero, Xenoverse 2, and all that jazz, where it's a type of combat style where you're fully in a 3D dimensional type of area, and you have the ability to freely move in all directions, but the camera is specifically behind you. That is like the main thing about a 3D arena fighting game. But as we know in Bleach, I'll be throwing up gameplay as I'm talking about this, the camera is not really behind us at any point. It's usually more to the side. Okay, I want to further go into detail about what I meant about the difference between a 3D fighting game and arena fighting game. This is post commentary, just in case you didn't realize. And because I feel like I kind of failed to explain the big difference between the two, which is 3D fighting games has more emphasis of basically neutral and like movement and stuff like that in terms of like more grounded combat overall, while arena fire does have grounded combat and some of the other stuff I mentioned, but arena fires are not really worried about game character balancing and like precise timing, where Bleach is clearly going in that route about like your movements and your actions will affect a lot of the stuff you do, versus an arena fighter you can kind of just click buttons and it will probably work. Even if there is some type of skill to it, at the end of the day it's not really made for character balancing like Storm and all the other games that I probably mentioned in this video. So I hope that clears it up. If it doesn't clear it up, let me know in the comment section and I'll explain it further. Back to the video. That's why, like Senju in Japan, I also agreed that this game is classified as a 3D fighting game. A pure 3D fighting game is basically a similar definition, but the difference is the way the game plays feels different than an arena fire. Like you can't just sit here and just be like, oh, this is an arena fire through and through just because they have 3D movement. No, that's not it. There's a difference between arena fighters and just 3D fighting games as a pure. And I might not be the best person to explain this, so we can have a discussion in the comment section because I'll have like better thoughts because I plan to do this in one take. But I would love to view why people think this is a 3D arena fire exclusively compared to just being a straight up 3D fighting game. That's like the first point I wanted to get across. The second thing I want to get across is the overall game in terms of the depth of it. Now, I don't have my hands on the game like certain content creators currently do, but because I actually recorded 95 to like 98% of the podcast that Senju in Japan did, I have it on my computer. So you want me to upload that? I can do it. I just haven't gave myself time to do it. And one of the things that was talked about, which interests me a lot, was the training mode. So as we all know, the training modes in arena fighter games, or just anime games as of late, as with some exceptions, are basically trash. Like let's just be honest. Like we can talk about Xenoverse 2, it's very basic. If we talk about Storm Connections, it is, I will argue it's better but worse than Storm 4 at the same time. And it's not even like a good training mode in general, if I'm going to be honest. Same thing with Sparking Zero. Sparking Zero tried to do something unique with training mode, but at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff is not that useful to help get better at the game. I'm just going to be honest. But from what various people in that podcast have said, there is frame data.
I know a lot of people are skepticistic over it. I was like, man, niggas just gassing up. It's the latest game. And then I saw it, and then you see the frame data, you see the whiffs, you see the punishes, you see the moves.
which by itself is huge. Like a 3D fighting game, or some people would be like a 3D arena fire, but it's just a 3D fighting game. Or just saying the fact that we get access to frame data, like it's already been pretty clear that the devs want to balance this in a competitive sense. But I feel like when you see frame data in training mode, that further like strengthens that point. It's like, yeah, this is going to be a game that people can actually take seriously to some extent. Now, do I think this is going to be an Evo game? Probably not. I was like, probably not. But I think this could be really a strong type of game in an online scene, not an Evo scene, but an online scene, like tournaments, like challenges, whatever you want to phrase it. It really comes down to the community and how they want to do that. The one thing I would like to know, and anyone that has the game, y'all could like confirm it or allude to it or anything, or just outright deny it, is I want to know if there is a recording function, because that alone will make the training mode way better than 90% of these arena fighter games. I'm gonna be so honest. Like being able to have the bot do a very specific action that you want to do will by default make the training mode easily the best. Not only we get frame data, we can actually make the opponent do specific things. That would be the best thing in the entire world. I'm gonna just keep it a stack. Another thing I want to talk about is, I'm not gonna be the best at talk about, but I feel like I should talk about it, is there was a discussion. I think Nechi Okage uploaded like his own like version of this conversation, because he personally talked to like President Rose about this topic, but I'm more or less talking about what happened in the podcast, where the discussion, one of the big discussions, if not the biggest discussion, was the longevity of Bleach. The longevity of the Bleach game. My fault. The Bleach game. There's like one side of it where it's like, oh, the game's only gonna last a month, and there's another side it's like, oh, it actually might last longer than a month. Like longer than a month, it might last for a couple months or something along those lines. I don't really have the biggest opinion because I have not played the game myself, so I can't really give like a straight up opinion about that. But typically, if y'all know the history of anime games, what tends to happen, with very few exceptions, what tends to happen is the first month of a game, like Sparking Zero, will be hyped as hell, and then after that month it dies down and people stop playing it, right? Like people will literally stop playing it after the first week, the first month. That's just kind of just how it is. But that kind of is the case with every fighting game, or just any game in general that's not that it has to do with like a PvP type of system. That's just kind of what it is. And do I think Bleach Rebirth of Souls have the potential to break that cycle? I'm 50-50 on it. I feel like it could, but I think it lies more. It's a combination between the developers and also the community. I think that's what it comes down to. Because let's be honest, the community plays a big part if a game succeeds or not. And not just the developers. Like, for what I mean is, let's take Sparking Zero for example. The one issue that the community likes to do, unconditionally or not, is they love to reveal the most cheapest junk in the entire world. I'm not saying Bleach will or won't have this type of stuff. It probably will, if I'm gonna be honest. But like the community loves to find like the most cheesiest strats and share it with the internet, and now everybody's doing it, which is going to happen most likely with this game as well. And the difference is, the reason why Sparking Zero declines so fast is because people are starting to do cheap junk. So in order for you to win in some cases, you have to kind of do some cheap stuff. That's just what it is. But I feel like from what was being described by Kaizen, right? Yeah, Kaizen was saying, like, from his eyes, because he is a fighting game FGC type of FGC player. He is saying from what he have seen of the full game, there wasn't really anything that could be abused that he was aware of. Like, everything has a risk, everything has a cost, right? Which sounds really good on paper. I'm keeping my expectations low because I have not seen any gameplay in terms of my own personal eyes, so I'm keeping my expectations somewhat low. successful. And I also want to know y'all opinions about how y'all think the game is going to like last. Do you think this game can actually be successful? Regardless if you read or watched Bleach, anyone can really answer this question. And at the end of the day, your opinion is your opinion, but but everybody else should be open to hear other people's opinions, because that's what it is at the end of the day, an opinion. But overall, I think, as I said, I'm like 50-50 on it. And I do think if the community and the developers are on top of the game, making all types of content, from the standpoint of making videos and making patch notes and stuff like that, I think the game could last for a long time. I think it really can. And it really just comes down to how everybody perceives it and what everybody's willing to do for the Bleach community. That's just what it is. As I said, I'm very new to the series, so I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I know like all the terms and even the game terms, let alone the anime and manga terms. Like I don't. But I'm here to enjoy a good game. That's really about it. So I will be playing Bleach Rebirth of Souls, and that is really about all I wanted to talk about. As I said, I'll probably put this in the pinned comment as well. Let me know if y'all want me to upload that podcast, because I don't think anybody recorded it. I don't know, at least the last time I checked. So I have the podcast, I can upload it. Up to y'all. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.